floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
For being here.
Thank you very much, Pop. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good afternoon. It's really wonderful to be on campus and to see so many people interested in innovation and in Israel and, more importantly, actually, in South Africa. Last night, I was at what sometimes people call the best show in town. I was at the Sona speech, and while the media is talking about all of the things that went on around the speech, if anybody stuck around and paid attention to what President Zuma said, he talked a lot about innovation and opportunity and job creation and building his perception on a better future for South Africa. And I think that lots of what I'm going to try to talk about over the next half an hour, and then hopefully we can discuss a little bit, has resonance and connection to where South Africa can be going. And so for Israel, just as an introduction, tiny country the size of Kruger Park, but with thousands of startup companies, whether it's in telecommunications, anybody who has a cell phone here in South Africa, you're using a machine that has Israeli innovations inside it and that partners with every single telecom company in South Africa. Software applications, maybe I'll talk about a couple of them that could be relevant and help you in your life. Agriculture, water use, and then in various cultural areas as well. And here's an interesting chart that was in The Economist just 2 weeks ago, ranking the ecosystems for innovation in startups around the world. It will surprise nobody that Silicon Valley in the United States is first. Israel's Tel Aviv is second, way ahead of anything else in Europe or anything else in the United States. So in the range of categories regarding talent and performance and output of innovative companies, Israel is a world leader. And again, here's another ranking. This came from Davos that ranked Israel third after only Finland and Switzerland. Notice it's interesting that it's smaller countries that are at the top of that list. And that's actually one of the advantages, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, about why a smaller, younger country has opportunities to innovate. And so let's talk about perhaps some reasons about why Israel has been successful in innovation. And the first is taking a curse, taking the dilemma that we've had a conflict with many of our neighbors for much of our existence and turning it into a blessing. We obviously strive for peace with our neighbors and hope to have an opportunity to negotiate peace with all of our neighbors. But in the meantime, because we have national service for all of our young men and our young women, they're given responsibility and they're giving access to modern technologies and responsibility and to innovate at a very young age. And so when they come out of their national service and start their time in university, they've already taken leadership positions and already have an independence and a responsibility toward and an aptitude towards innovation. And what's most interesting about Israel's military is it's very much knowledge-based, very much information-based, and offers opportunities for young men and for young women to have access to creativity and innovation. The second is research and institutions just like this. Israel has a range of top-class research institutions that have a collaboration between business, academia, and government. And in fact, Prof, you were just talking about that idea of trying to find a way to guide our young people towards industry, towards business, towards creativity, along the bottom. And with the LaunchLab and your new IP company, the idea of encouraging students and academics to create things that are new, and the university will help market them. That I know exists here on the campus at Stellenbosch. Universities in Israel, whether it's the T3 at the Technion or Yisum from Tel Aviv University, or from Hebrew University in Jerusalem, has that capability that creates an income stream both for academics and young people and for the university itself. And so that's created an atmosphere, an ecosystem that allows for innovation to happen on college campuses, on university campuses, and after as well. And then finally, a core priority for the Israeli government, and you talked about as an innovation strategy, Israel invests 4% of our GNP, 4%, towards R&D. South Africa's National Development Plan guided towards 2030 sets as a goal to reach 0.75%. Now, obviously, South Africa has a range of agendas and issues and dilemmas and challenges going forward, but when you put as a goal to put 0.75% towards innovation, towards research and development, obviously it's going to impact the ability of academic institutions like Stellenbosch to be able to move forward in that way. And so Israel is the world's top spender in research and development. There's also a culture of the citizens of Israel, of people who have had experience around the world, the tradition of my people, the Jewish people, as innovative, as literate from ancient times, finding new solutions, having connections and relations all around the world, and the diverse experience of people of my country, whether it's people who've come from Africa, whether it's from Ethiopia or Tunisia or South Africa, or people from other places in the Middle East, or people from Europe or North America, that mix, that diversity spurs innovation, spurs creativity. The small size I talked about just a bit ago, the fact that everybody is close by, and that what's interesting is that when people create a new product, a new idea, they're not thinking about the local market. If you're growing a wine in this area of South Africa, you might be thinking primarily about the South African market or even just like the Western Cape market. In Israel, nobody thinks that way. Everyone is thinking globally and focusing on Europe, North America, Africa, and the world. And finally, Israel has no choice. We're a small country in a really, really complicated neighborhood. Anybody who follows the news from my region, whether it's Syria or Iraq or Egypt, or the complications in the trying to find a way forward between us and our Palestinian neighbors, know that we have to innovate or we're going to perish. And so even though we don't have much natural resources, we don't have oil or much natural gas or even water, we've had to innovate and create new solutions that offer opportunity for us in Israel. And so if that is us as a background, the question is how does the world, how does the international community, how does South Africa benefit from our experience? And the fact is that every large tech company, every one, from Microsoft to Apple to Facebook to Intel, are all doing research and development in Israel. The CEO of Apple is going to be in Israel next week to open the new Apple facility, to understand that key research and development for that company and for its future is in Israel. And for those companies, they don't come to Israel because of politics or because of the weather, but because there's a preponderance of innovators and of engineers and of programmers who have the answers to the dilemmas that these 21st century companies are looking for. And so here are some examples all around Israel, whether from Siemens to Google to IBM to Intel, all of them doing their state-of-the-art innovation in Israel, seeing Israel as a laboratory, as a test case, as a test tube for what the world needs in the coming years. And so here are some examples, perhaps. On the top is a pill cam. Can you imagine if you just take a pill that you swallow and it has a tiny camera inside so that the doctor doesn't have to open you up and do invasive surgery to do a diagnosis. I'll show you this. This little plastic tube. Anybody know what it is? It's a drip irrigation pipe. I mean, at its most simplest, all it is a pipe with holes in it, right? But in a desert, in a water limited society like Israel or like South Africa, every drop counts. And so an old-fashioned traditional flood irrigation, where you just take water and spill it in until you run out of water and then hope and pray that God will make your crop grow, well, that's fine if you live in certain places of the world where it rains all year. But in South Africa, many parts of South Africa, and certainly in Israel, we don't have enough water. And so much so we don't have water, it's a national security issue. Israel's primary water source comes south from Syria. And I don't know about you, but in 2015, I don't want to trust Bashar al-Assad for water security for me or for any of my neighbors. And so we now desalinate and recycle more water than any country in the world. What's interesting, perhaps, to you might be that this irrigation pipe, while it's an Israeli technology, is manufactured 20 minutes from here in a factory in Kraaifontein in the Western Cape, a business collaboration between Israel and South Africa that creates jobs, that creates opportunity, creates technical know-how, and there is not a winery in the Western Cape that doesn't use drip irrigation because they know that they can't afford unlimited water, but need to use it carefully, selectively, and in an advanced modern style. Another great, interesting modern Israeli innovation is Mobileye. Just had an IPO on the American Stock Exchange, or on NASDAQ in the United States, that the technology is using almost like if you imagine an infrared light in the front of the vehicle that stops the car, that controls it if it gets too close to the car in front. And 4 or 5 major auto manufacturers around the world are already installing Mobileye in their vehicles, and that they say that within the next few years, driverless vehicles will exist. It's not far away. In this decade, using that kind of Mobileye technology. Hi. I'll teach you a word of Hebrew today. One word of Hebrew. And the word is exit. Right? Exit. On the door. In Hebrew, the word exit, it colloquially means that you've sold your startup for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. You've done an exit because Google bought you out. Perhaps the most famous exit in Israel in recent years is an app called Waze. Has anybody heard of it? Does anybody have it on we have one, a couple of them? Download it on your smartphone. I warmly recommend it. It's free. What it does is it's a mashup between a GPS and Facebook. What does it do? A GPS tells you how to get from point A to point B in the shortest distance, right? And how to take the shortest distance of the roads. But if you add Waze in, because everybody else is using Waze, or many people use Waze here in South Africa and around the world, it'll tell you where there's traffic. And so the shortest distance between here and Cape Town may be on, I don't know, is it the N2? But if the N2 is clogged up on traffic, Waze will suggest you a faster way to go. Google, but it's free. So it's one of the dilemmas they had in Waze to be able to do an exit was how do you make money from it? Well, so they put a little bit of advertising on it and so forth, like you see on apps from time to time. But Google decided that they couldn't afford not to have it because Google needs people to come and visit because that's the way that they attract advertising and so forth. And so they paid 11 billion rand, 1 billion US, just under, to buy Waze. And now when you use Google Maps, you have Waze inside it. So you can download either Google Maps onto that app, you'll have Waze inside, or just Waze itself. It's free. Viber, you may know, the technology that sort of, that for IP telephone and video conversation was bought out by a Japanese company recently. NDS is really another interesting company. Anybody who has DSTV at home, right? The box that you keep that has the code in it that keeps you from watching it for free, so DSTV can make money. The encryption, the digital encryption, is now owned by Cisco, the huge American company, bought from NDS, the Israeli company, for $5 billion US dollars. And I talked about the IPOs for Mobileye and for Wix and the like. But it's not just high tech. As I showed you with the drip irrigation, it's not. It's also solar energy. President Zuma talked about that, alternative sources of energy for South Africa. The picture you see there is a new commercial solar energy field in Rwanda that was inaugurated last week using Israeli technology. Another plan that's used two different projects of sustainability and innovation that are also done here in the Western Cape are using advanced seedlings for vegetable growth, a partnership between ZZ2 and Israel's Chishtil They have a nursery here in the Western Cape in Limpopo. And so because ZZ2 has about 80 to 90% of the tomato market in South Africa, if you're eating tomatoes, they come from Israeli innovation and Israeli technology. And it allows the farmers to be able to grow different kinds of tomatoes that are more apt to deal with, I don't know, a more windy condition here in the Western Cape or a warmer condition in, say, Mpumalanga province, and be able to get them to market more successfully and more profitable for the local farmer. Another interesting collaboration between the Western Cape and Israeli innovation, you may know the Sharon fruit. Have you ever heard of Sharon fruit? I know it's a fruit that looks a little bit like an orange. We call it persimmon. Persimmon is the name of the fruit in English. For whatever reason, they market it as Sharon fruit here in South Africa. It grows for 3 months in the autumn. And the Israeli grower, a company called MOR, M-O-R, had a dilemma. They had this wonderful contract in Europe to export from Israel to Europe 90% of what they grew. But it only went 3 months a year in the autumn. And so they wanted to find a way to extend the season. Here in South Africa, of course, your autumn is coming up somewhat soon. But it's a different, so let's call it April and May. In Israel, it's October, November. The different seasons allows, and so they built, combined with partners in South Africa, have orchards in the area of Swellendam, also here in the Western Cape, growing that kind of fruit, and exporting 90% of South African product to the same customers in Europe, using the same technology and the same advanced theories both on growing and on marketing, offering export potential for South Africa and benefits for both Israel and South Africa. One last product I want to show you that's interesting of Israeli innovation, that it doesn't all need to be high-tech and advanced, is this. Anybody? Well, it's the last thing on the list. There you go. It's a circumcision device. It's a non-surgical circumcision. Nobody's going to do it today. But the World Health Organization did research years ago and found that circumcised males have 60% less chance of attracting HIV. 60% less chance. And so, but getting an adult male to go to a surgeon and be circumcised, one, is a psychological challenge, but it's also a medical challenge in the developing world across Africa and in other places as well. There just aren't enough, as we saw in Western Africa recently, there just aren't enough doctors. There aren't enough sterile surgeries. And so the World Health Organization challenged innovators to create a non-surgical method for circumcision. And Israeli innovators came up with the idea. I will not give a graphic description about how it works. You're certainly welcome to go to prepex.com and learn about it. But this is already the method of choice in 8 different countries across Africa. The Department of Health here in South Africa is in advanced testing, and we're hoping that this Israeli innovation is going to save thousands and thousands of lives in South Africa in the coming years and make the risk of HIV drop dramatically for people in this country and around the world. Cyber is a big issue these days too. Anybody who followed the issue of the Sony Movie Corporation and the release of the movie that was about North Korea and how cyber thieves or criminals went in and basically took over the website of Sony. I'm sure that you're careful on campus too with access and with protecting the privacy of your students and your faculty and your research and all of that. Israel has become a world innovator in that idea. And it's not just an idea of just keeping your credit card safe, because most of us are doing online banking these days, but it's our national key points as well. Our dams, our airports, our very basic way that we do business is digital in the 21st century. And if we're not able to protect it, then being able to run a country safely, being able to run a business safely is in danger. And here too, Israel is very much an innovator in that area. And I've talked about, from cellular phones to tomatoes, about who benefits. The truth is everybody benefits. We get more advanced, better, newer ideas, that move our world forward. We have an opportunity to expose people to new opportunities, to innovation. And interestingly, it also promotes peace in my region. How can that be possible? Because we've found that many different societies, both within Israel, in the Palestinian territories, in Jordan and in Egypt, have taken advantage of this ecosystem, have created new ideas, have partnered together to benefit themselves, their families, and their countries. We at the Embassy of Israel here in South Africa had a contest in 2014 that we called Start Tel Aviv, and invited innovators, I know that there were some from down here as well who participated, to put forward an innovation and come before a committee and introduce themselves. An innovation called My 30 Day was the winner of this contest, and they got to go to an innovation exhibition with people from all over the world that took place in Tel Aviv. Their idea was to create an app for people for the 30 days after they were released from hospital, and to help them get their different treatments and follow through with their medication and then their advice from their physician and their healthcare providers through an app on their cell phone. It was really interesting innovation, South African innovation, of course. And some other opportunities. We have different exhibitions and different ways that people meet in different areas of innovation that are going to take place in Israel in 2015, whether it's in cyber, in agriculture, in water management, and the like. And I guess towards the middle of the year, we're going to have another one of these Start Tel Aviv contests. And obviously, if you see yourself as an innovator and someone who can come up with a new idea and think that exposure to Israel and our experience could be useful for you, we certainly encourage that kind of involvement. Here's a quote from the Prime Minister of Israel. He was in Davos last January, and most people would expect him to speak about conflicts in the Middle East and dilemmas, but he spent the time talking about innovation and talking about how innovation could be good for us, good for our neighbors, and good for the world. And there you see the quote of the Prime Minister in front of you there. And I think he surprised some people by talking about that issue as opposed to perhaps some issues that they might have expected otherwise. Here's some ways to connect to us online. I'm on Facebook and on Twitter. You're certainly welcome to follow and interact with me on this or on any other issue. So you can see my addresses above. We have monthly newsletters on innovation and on doing business between South Africa and Israel. And obviously, I invite you and anybody else to learn how you and how South Africa can benefit from developing some of our skills that we've developed on innovation and learning from each other. So I'm going to stop here with your permission, and obviously, if anybody has any comments or questions or issues, I'd love to hear them. So thanks very much.